It is really great to have all of you out here tonight. We appreciate it very much. My name is Alan Ormsby. I am the State Director for AARP Utah. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Keith Woodwell. He's an attorney and also the Director of the Division of Securities for the state of Utah. That's the state agency that's responsible for licensing broker-dealers and people who sell securities in the state. Keith graduated magna cum laude from BYU in 1995, and he spent 5 years as Associate General Counsel to the Utah State Legislature. Following the September 11th attacks on the United States, Keith took a 6-year detour to work for the CIA. In June 2008, Keith returned to Utah with his family and was appointed to his current post as Director of the Division of Securities. Keith is going to make you an expert in recognizing and combating fraud. And let's put our hands together and welcome Keith Woodwell.
So, thank you all. I appreciate you coming out tonight. And I think that hopefully in about 20 minutes or so, I can make all of you expert investors. At least that's the goal here. So everything you ever needed to know about investing. And I've got the alligator up here, and the reason for that, I think a lot of the secret of investing, frankly, is learning how not to lose, not how to get yourself in trouble. So in 20 minutes or so, we're going to go over a couple of key tips that I think will help you be able to recognize and avoid cases of investment fraud in the state. So here's our first test. If you Google alligator proofing your estate, the first 4 hits you're going to get are links to these 4 books. So I want you to take a look at those 4 books for a minute and see if you notice anything unusual about them. 3 of them look really similar. 4th one looks a little different, but if you look at it closely, it actually has the same title, same subtitle. What's different about these books? The authors are different, right? There's a different picture on each one, 4 different authors. So who wrote this book? Well, the cynical among you may come up with the answer fairly easily. The truth is not one of these guys wrote this book. So what were they doing? All 4 of these guys did free lunch seminars. Any of you ever gotten one of those invitations in the mail where you can go down to Carver's, right, or the Chuck-a-Rama or wherever, and you're going to get to hear a free seminar on some financial topic? And these guys went the extra mile. Not only did they give you the free meal, they had a copy of their book that they were giving away free at the presentation. So you're getting a free meal. You're going to hear a 20, 30-minute speech from these guys on some financial topic where they're going to speak very well and give you some information about maybe Social Security or estate planning or something like that. Then you're going to get a free copy of their book so they can literally say, I wrote the book on this topic. How are you going to feel about that person at the end of that meal? You're going to gain a little trust in them maybe? A little credibility? Yeah, and that's the idea here. They're gaining your trust so that then they can sell you a product. And we're going to talk about some of those products that they want to sell to you. So, if I haven't scared you enough already, the idea of this slide is to scare you a little bit more. Whether you guys want to believe it or not, your targets. Your targets for a couple of things. One is just out-and-out fraud. People that want to call it an investment, convince you to give them your money, and then they're going to steal it from you. But you're also targets for people who just want to sell you some product that maybe in the end is a lot better for them than it is for you. And I'm hoping that I can give you a couple of tips today that'll help you avoid both those situations. The reason you're a target is simple. Rightly or wrongly, the con artists out there and the unscrupulous salesmen, they think you're the ones with the money. So that's who they're going to come after. And they're going to target you with those free lunch seminars and a variety of other tactics we'll discuss. So let's talk about crime first, the actual fraud that goes on where they steal your money. You've heard about Ponzi schemes in the news. I'm sure you've had. There's a rash of them going on all the time. We've heard about Bernie Madoff and what he did. But do you know where that term comes from, Ponzi scheme? I think the best way to illustrate what this principle is to hear the story of Charles Ponzi himself. Most of us don't know that story. But Charles Ponzi was an Italian immigrant who lived in Boston in the 1920s. And he was kind of a small-time crook. He had actually done a little bit of time in jail up in Canada before he came to Boston. But he had this brilliant idea that he convinced some people of. He used to write letters back to his mother who still lived in Italy. And when he would send her a letter, he'd go to the post office, buy the stamp to put on there, and he would put inside the envelope what was called an International Postal Reply Coupon. Now, you can't get these at your post office anymore, but back in the day, it was a way to prepay postage. So these coupons are sold in the U.S. post office, they're sold in the post office in Italy, they're sold all over the world, and you can redeem them anywhere else for postage. So when his mom gets the letter, she can take that coupon, go to the Italian post office, and use it for stamps to send him a letter back. That way she doesn't have to pay, and he's already prepaid for her postage. So very kind of him, right? But he had this idea. He figured out that if he bought a bunch of these postal reply coupons over in Italy, using the lira, their currency, ships them over to the United States, redeems them for US postage, and then sells that postage and converts the dollars back to lira, he's got more money than he started with. Now that sounds kind of crazy, right? But in theory, this is true. If he did it just right and based on how much they charge for stamps in the different countries and the exchange rate between the dollar and the lira, it sounded pretty plausible. So he convinces a couple friends, give me $2,000 and I will guarantee you that I will double your money within 6 months, trading these postal reply coupons. So he takes the money, 6 months later he comes back, what do you think he says to him? I did it. Your $2,000 is now 4. So you can have the $4,000 if you want, or maybe you want to reinvest, right? If you just doubled your money in 6 months, would you want to reinvest? Why not? What else might you do? Would you give him more money maybe? Would you tell any of your friends about it? Yeah, and that's what people do. It's kind of human nature. So word of mouth spreads. Everybody wants to invest with Charles Ponzi. Making this long story a little bit less long, you know, at the end, within a couple of years, everybody up and down the East Coast has heard of Charles Ponzi. He's rich beyond his wildest imaginations, and everybody is lining up outside his door to hand over money to him. Well, it turns out in the end, when the government gets involved and there's an investigation, guess how many postal reply coupons he's buying with the money? None. None. What is he doing with the money? A lot of it goes in his pocket, and then he's using money from the new investors he brings in to pay off the old investors that want their money out. A Ponzi scheme is an illusion. You create the appearance of a successful business or a successful investment by using money from new investors to pay off the old investors. But if all the investors want their money out at the same time, it doesn't work. The whole thing's going to collapse. Same thing happened with Bernie Madoff, but he did it with stocks instead of with, postal reply coupons. It can happen with anything. It could be real estate, it could be foreign currencies, it could be orange groves. There's a famous case about worm farms. Anything could be used as the underlying business. But if you hear this pitch, if you're going to make a ton of money, and it sounds a little bit too good to be true, could be a Ponzi scheme. So, how do you protect yourself? If you don't remember anything else I say today, and you somehow incorporate into your long-term memory this one slide, I think you will be an expert on recognizing and avoiding fraud. Now, there's not a lot on that slide, so that's a pretty big claim to make. But what is this principle I've got up here? Risk and reward. When you invest, there is a rule that applies everywhere. I know of no exception, and that is that risk and reward go together in an investment. You guys actually already know this intuitively. I'm going to bet that every one of you has a savings account at a bank or a credit union, most likely. That's an investment. What's your reward on that investment? You making a lot of money off of that? Your return probably starts with like 0 point something, right? Maybe 0.0 something before you get to know. And you open up your statement each month and it says you made 8 cents in interest this period. And you're like, what's the point? So the rewards are very low. But what's the risk attached to that investment? Are you going to lose that money? Even if your bank or your credit union fails, the FDIC is going to step in, they insure it, you're getting that money back. So rewards are very low, risks also very low. Now, if we invest in the stock market, that's a little more risky, right? Stock market goes up and down. If you remember back in 2008, 2009, it was kind of a wild ride. A lot of people lost a lot of money, but some years it goes up quite a bit. Average long-term returns are like 8–10% in the stock market. So the rewards are much higher, risk is also much higher. Now, we could go over every example. It's always the same. As you move up in rewards, you're going to move up in risk. Now, if somebody comes in and tells you, I can get you tons of money, you're going to make a huge return on this, I'm going to double your money in 6 months, like Charles Ponzi said. And then he tells you, this thing's guaranteed. There's little or no risk attached to this deal. What is he doing? Trying to break that relationship. And guess what? He's lying. It's not true. There is no investment where you get the high rewards and you have little or no risk attached. As soon as you hear that, you don't have to understand what else he's doing with the money. You don't understand the ins and outs of how it works. If he's telling you some complicated processes you're going to use to make the money, it doesn't matter. As soon as you hear high reward, no risk, liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Just turn the other way. This guy is trying to sell you something that you don't want. All right, let's turn over to aggressive sales tactics now. So this isn't the guy that's trying to steal your money. He's just selling you a product that maybe is going to be more lucrative for him than it is for you. Maybe it pays him a big fee or a big commission. Now, I got a picture of, Uncle Guido up here, and I apologize if that's somebody's brother-in-law. But you guys know who this guy is, right? If you go down to the used car lot and you see this guy coming at you, you know what he's going to do, right? He's going to use some pretty aggressive sales tactics to try to get you into this car today. What do I need to do to get you in this car today? And you know what's coming at you. Unfortunately, the guy selling you the investment using these same aggressive sales tactics, he doesn't look like that. What does he look like? I'll give you a hint. Looks like this guy right here. You're not going to recognize it just by how he's dressed or, the goofy jacket that he's wearing or whatever. You're going to have to listen to what they say. So the tactics that they use are very similar, but you got to listen. I put a few of them up here for you. Fear. They're going to try to create some kind of problem. Like those guys that do the free lunch seminar, they meet with you one-on-one afterwards. The whole goal is to win your trust over, and then they want a one-on-one appointment. They may even tell you, I'm going to give you a free review of your finances. So you bring all your information in, you sit down with them, they look at what you've invested in, they look at your insurance. What are they going to tell you? Hey, great job, kiddo. Keep it up. You're doing a fantastic job. Is that what you're going to hear? No. You're going to hear something scary. They're going to tell you, oh, you got some tax consequences here you haven't thought about. Social Security is going to seize your assets. You're going to lose this. They're going to scare you and create a problem. Why? Because then they can sell you the solution to that problem. It's using fear to sell a product. If you feel that they're using fear against you, you don't want to buy that product. That's not how you make a good decision. Greed. If the focus is all on, think of how much good you could do with this money. You're going to be able to put your grandkids through college. You're going to pay for their missions. You're going to do so much good. All that charitable stuff you always wanted to do, you're going to be able to do it after this investment. But they're not talking much about how it makes the money. That's not a deal you want to get involved in. If you can't get that information about what really makes this thing tick in a way that is common sense and you can understand it, it's probably not a good deal. Scarcity is one of my favorites. So this is the approach where I tell you, look, I'm letting you in on this deal because I love you. We're friends, right? We're neighbors, we've known each other a long time, and normally I would only let somebody with more than $5 million in on this deal. That's who I deal with normally. But because we're friends, I'm going to let you in. But, I don't want to pressure you, and you don't have to do it if you don't want, but I do have 10 other people that want in on this deal, and, there's only one spot left. So if you don't want in, that's okay. There's no pressure here, but I got to know by tomorrow morning at the latest if you're in or you're out. So, let me know. Well, what have I done there? I'm telling you there's no pressure, but what am I creating? A lot of pressure. You got to decide right now. You know what? If it's a good deal now, it's a good deal next week, it's a good deal next month. You got time to get a second opinion. Don't be pressured or rushed into making a decision. Last one is trust. There's this problem we call affinity fraud that maybe you've heard about. I really hate it when I hear stories about people who've invested with their fill in the blank, their next door neighbor, their brother-in-law, their fellow church member, whatever it is. And it seems comforting, to invest with somebody you already know and you think you can trust. But what happens when those go bad? It's ugly. Do you want to be ripped off by somebody you've known for several years and maybe have to testify at that person's trial? That's not a pleasant situation. And if you invest instead with somebody in an arm's length deal who is a licensed professional, even if you've never met that person before and you're not sure if you can trust them, even if they turn out to be a bad apple, you're probably getting your money back at the end of the day because there's a firm that stands behind them that's going to step up if they've broken the rules. There's us, the state agency that's going to take your complaint, go out and investigate it, and force that firm to step up and pay you back. It might be a pain, might take a while to get your money back, but if you invest with a licensed professional and they cheat you in some way, you're getting your money back. You invest with your fill in the blank, your relative, your neighbor, whoever, and that goes south, that money's not coming back. It's gone. All right, have I scared you enough yet? I probably have. So how do you protect yourself from these tactics? The best key I can give you is to know what you're paying for the products you're buying. All right, salesmen don't like to talk about this sometimes. They don't want to tell you what their commission is, what the fees are that they're making. But the legitimate financial advisors out there are going to be upfront about how much you pay. And if you get a story like, hey, you don't pay me anything, the insurance company pays me, I'm just doing this to help you out, that's a huge red flag. You're paying. All right, whether the money passes through a third party first and then goes to him, it's still your money. So if they can't be upfront about how much this costs, how they get paid on the deal, that's not somebody you should do business with. The legitimate licensed actors out there, they're going to lay it all out. These are my fees. This is what I charge. Here's how it compares to other people in the industry. You can make an educated choice. If you're hearing a lot of resistance about how much they make, it's probably because they're making a lot, and they don't want to tell you that they're going to get a 7% commission off of this. And that's what they're getting on a lot of these annuities and other types of products. It's really quite a bit. You also need to know what they're licensed to sell you. If your advisor, I was telling you he's a financial advisor, but all he has is an insurance license, well, guess what he can sell you? Insurance products. That's it. He can't sell you mutual funds, stocks, bonds, other types of investments. He can only sell you an annuity or a universal life policy. So what's he going to pitch you? An annuity or a universal life policy. Ask him what they're licensed to sell. If you're dealing with someone who is securities licensed and insurance licensed, they can advise you on the whole range of financial products that are out there for you. And you can pick from that full menu from the thing that really makes sense for you. Okay, I want to touch on annuities here at the end just for a second, because if you haven't been pitched an annuity yet, you will be pitched an annuity. These get sold all the time. And there's a simple reason for that. They pay some of the best commissions out there. So salesmen like to sell annuities. Now, I'm not trying to run them down and say that nobody should have an annuity, and if you already have one, don't panic. That's okay. But you need to understand what an annuity is. They're very complex instruments. They're essentially a contract between you and the insurance company, where you pay money in over time, sometimes all at once or sometimes slowly over many years. The insurance company is going to do something with the money. You see the graph here where the water is coming into that sub-accounts as you pay in. They invest it or do something with it. And then there's a contract period where then they start paying it back out to you over time. There's a lot of bells and whistles that can be attached to these. You have to actually read the paperwork on these. These riders that you get, there's a lot of life insurance things or guaranteed returns that can be added on. You pay for it all, though. You're going to pay extra fees and commissions, and you need to have that disclosed to you. What are all the costs associated? Some of these run costs up to maybe 7, 8% a year. So you got to generate a return then of maybe 12, 14, 15% a year before you're really making any serious money. Just something to be aware of. You also need to understand this tax pitch. So they get sold because they're tax deferred. That's the same as your IRA or your 401k retirement account. You don't pay taxes when you put the money in, and it grows tax-free, and then you have to pay the taxes when you take it out. Annuity works the same way. If you're going to buy an annuity, it shouldn't be in a retirement account. Why? There's no additional tax benefit. If you're in an IRA, it's already tax deferred. You don't need an annuity to get the tax deferral. If you're going to buy an annuity, it should be outside of your retirement with other monies so that you get that tax benefit of having it tax deferred and it grows without taxes until you take it out. If you want more information on those, we have a lot. And if you stop by our table afterwards, we can give you some additional information on annuities, or you can call our office and we'll walk you through the process. All right, lastly, check before you invest. There's a lot of people that come to our office and they think they've been taken in some kind of fraud. And they've already done a lot of the research for us. They're great investigators. They've Googled this person, they've searched out on the internet, and they found, you know what? I found out that he did this before in Colorado, and he got in trouble there, and there was a suit against him, or maybe there was a criminal action. And I see that he's declared bankruptcy 2 times. Wouldn't you have liked to have known that before you invested, not after? Or I found out that he's not licensed, that there was some action that was taken against him where his license was suspended at some point. All these things are publicly available information that you can have before you make the decision. You come to our office, go to that securities.utah.gov website. The tools are there. If you don't feel comfortable checking it all out yourself, we'll do it for you. We have accesses not only to the state databases, but all the national databases to give you the full history on the person and the firm that's selling you the product. All that can be in your hands before you make the decision. All right, last slide. Make it really simple. I got the tortoise and the hare up here. Why? I really believe the tortoise beats the hare. When it comes to investing, it's slow and steady that wins the race. What happens when you're falling behind? You feel like, oh, I'm at X, I'm now 55 years old. I want to retire. I haven't saved up enough. I need to make a lot of money in a hurry. And you go out and you try to hit a home run in your investments. What's probably going to happen? You're going to strike out. You're going to lose what little bit you have. But if you every year are putting that money away and letting it grow for you and letting compound interest work, you're going to win, like the tortoise. You got to be slow and steady, even after you retire. You still need growth, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to die the year after I retire. I plan to live for another 30 years or so after I retire. So I'm still going to need some growth in that account. Let it just stay, let it grow, be patient. Remember that risk-reward thing, right? As soon as you hear high rewards, no risk, and you're going to hear it, that's what all the con men use. Don't do it. You don't have to understand how he's cheating you. If you hear high rewards, no risk, he's cheating you. That's enough to know. Check before you invest, not after. And finally, the bottom line is I think just don't invest with your blank. If it's your something, I wouldn't invest with that guy. Your brother-in-law, your home teacher, your neighbor down the street that your kids go to school with, it just causes a lot of problems in the end. So hopefully we've given you the tools you need to protect yourself from the alligators out there. They're real. Unfortunately, they do want to get you, but you guys all now have the tools that you need to avoid them and invest wisely. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.